I'll start with the introductions and kind of the formalities. As you can tell, we're pretty casual here at MarketSmart. But for those of you who don't know me yet, I am Greg Warner. I'm the CEO and founder of MarketSmart. We will give you like a 1-2 about MarketSmart at the very end for those of you who are not familiar with what we do and how we help fundraisers be the best they can be. That'll come right before the Q&A portion of this webinar. Also, I'm sure we'll get this question later on for latecomers, but the slides and this recording will be shared usually just within a couple of days or maybe a few days of the event. We will send you an email. And even if your friends registered but did not attend, they will get the slides in the recording too. So I want to welcome my friend, Kevin Fitzpatrick, whom I actually met when we sort of had a tiff online on LinkedIn. It wasn't much of a tiff, but I tend to be pretty forthright in my beliefs, and so does he. So we hit heads, and that was good because we struck up a friendship and realized that we're actually the same person, just he was born like 30 years later or something, maybe 20 years. But yeah, so Kevin, I'm not reading your bio, buddy, but Kevin had really had to make magic happen in much the same way that I did in the beginning of my career, which is that someone stuck him in a room with a telephone and basically said, make it rain. So that's exactly what happened with me too. And both of us went and we studied. We learned through books and any way that we could from others and mentors. And in the end, this isn't, I mean, I know I probably made around 30,000 cold calls in my time. I know you probably have too, Kevin, and he's scheduled thousands of visits and gone on these visits and raised lots of money for organizations. So having said all that, Kevin's here to share today, well, partly why it's scary, but mostly how it doesn't have to be that way to schedule these kinds of visits with your supporters and benefactors. So without further ado, Kevin, take it away.
Thanks for having me, Greg. As I mentioned previously, I hope I don't ruin your reputation by being your guest on my first webinar ever. But I'm excited to talk to all of you today. This is an interesting experience. When I was getting ready to do this, you know, here we are. I can't see anyone. It's just me. And it reminded me of one time several years ago, I was speaking at an event in Dallas, and it was a phenomenal event. I'm giving my talk. It's the ask, and everyone is responding super positively. You know, I get to the strong points in my talk, and people are clapping. The room's just full of energy. It's a phenomenal experience. 2 weeks later, I give the exact same talk in a different venue in Austin, Texas. And I get to the first point, like the first crescendo, where everyone applauded up in Dallas at just crickets. And the crowd was just completely dead. And man, that is an awkward experience. So since I can't see any of you, I'm just going to imagine that you're having the time of your life and enjoying something. So I'll just get into it real quick. Like Greg said, I got started in major gifts when I was a junior in college doing a volunteer internship. I just got thrown into an office in Dallas by myself. The rest of the organization was in Austin. No one was over me in the organization doing fundraising. And so I was just told, just go make it happen with not a lot of direction. And that was a good thing in a lot of ways, because I didn't have any of the, I think, negativity that a lot of people have and pessimism from like years of failure sometimes and not seeing things go well. So I just got to dream big and kind of do whatever I wanted. And I knew that getting in front of our benefactors face to face was just going to be incredibly important. So I started studying, you know, how do you get in front of people? And And when I first started, yeah, it was terrifying. This was the scariest thing of my career, being, 21, 22 years old. And I'd be in this office and I'd be calling people, and it was terrifying. I mean, I would literally, there were times where I knew I had to make a call to schedule a visit with someone, and I would be pacing in my office for 30 minutes to an hour, just trying to work up the courage to to dial the number and face whatever was on the other end of that line. And one of the things that made it so scary is that I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't have a system, I didn't have a game plan, I didn't have a script that I could follow. And so it just wasn't clear what I should be doing. And because of that, it took me forever to take action. And then I was just worried about, what are people going to say to me? What are going to people do? So I started reading sales books. I started meeting with sales professionals, other development professionals, and just learning, like, how do you schedule meetings with people? How do you schedule visits? And there were several things that I learned along that process, systems that I was able to follow that gave me the confidence to actually do the work. So we can argue all day long about what is exactly the best script to use, what are the best techniques to use. And I think that's important. And I'm going to go through some of that today. But I think one of the main keys is just having a system. If you don't have a system, you're always going to be wondering, well, what am I going to say when I'm on the phone? And that's just going to cause you to not do it. So first thing I would say is just, yeah, we're going to go through a system today. This has been extremely effective for me and for my clients that I train on how to do this stuff. I hope you'll give it a whirl and see how it goes. So the first thing I'm going to get into is a bit of a mindset thing. So I've started this slide with believe your organization is the best. Now, I got this quote up here and that I've attributed to someone I made up as Phil the philanthropist. But this guy, Phil, he was a benefactor at the organization that I worked for. And it was his birthday. And so I just called him up to wish him a happy birthday. Pro tip right there, call your benefactors to wish him a happy birthday, and that's it. So I call him on his birthday, he answers, wish him a happy birthday. And then I just start asking him, how's life? And he starts telling me about how his business has been doing so well. And I said, man, Phil, what do you, tell me about it. And he said, well, in the past 3 years, he said, in the past 2 years, my business has tripled. And I said, what do you attribute that to? And he said, well, Kevin, there just came a time. Now, keep in mind, this guy before this point was giving away several $100,000s a year and clearly has a 7-figure income, is doing extremely well before this. And then he tells me and he's a financial advisor. And he told me there came a point a couple of years ago where I finally fully believed that for the ultra wealthy, he said those that have $10 million or more liquid, I finally fully believed that our firm was the best place in the world for them to invest. And he said, once I really believed that, it changed everything about my business. It changed, the level of certainty that I had when I reached out to people to schedule a meeting to get their business. It changed how I talk to people about what we do. And it just allowed him to do all of the things necessary to achieve this result. And so that's something I think is so key. Some people might disagree with me on this, but you need to believe your organization is the best in the world at what you do. It's not to say that they're the best organization in the world at solving all problems, but for a specific type of benefactor, you've got to know that if you want to solve this problem, our organization is the best in the world to making that happen. There's several reasons that's important. One, it's just going to change how you act. It's going to change how you sound. No longer are you just this timid person who oh, well, I just hope I can get somebody to meet with me. Because the mistake we make many times when we're getting started is we feel like we're the lowly fundraiser. They're the wealthy person. They've got the thing that I want, money. When you think this way, now you realize you've got the thing that they want. There's basically an endless supply of money. There's a very finite supply of organizations that can achieve the result that yours can. And so it's one of my favorite quotes from, it's from the book Born to Raise, paraphrase. But basically, one of the things they say in there is that there's never a shortage of money. There's only a shortage of bold and exciting ideas. So when you've got that bold and exciting idea, that changes how you approach people. And that is key to where you begin. So we're going to go from there. Believe your organization is the best in the world. If there's some organization that does the work better than you, I would say, think about, like, how do I get to working at that organization? Again, maybe this sounds crazy, but the way my mind works is, why would I want to play for the B team? I want to be achieving the greatest possible result for the cause that I'm most passionate about. So something to think about. Believe your organization is the best in the world. Sorry, I'm going kind of quick, people, because we've got a lot of ground to cover and I want to make sure we get through this. Because ultimately, this webinar, the purpose of this, what I hope you get out of this is the confidence and then the excitement to actually go schedule visits. Information is useless if we don't do anything with it. So let me go into tips for scheduling visits. But before that, last thing I'll say on kind of mindset, remind yourself every day of why you do what you do. If you're nervous to pick up that phone and schedule a visit, remind yourself of who it is that you serve. Remind yourself, if it's that, kid that's fighting cancer, like, have a picture of that kid on your desk. If it's a single mom whose life has been transformed in some way because of your organization, have that picture of her on your desk. I used to watch mission videos sometimes of like work our organization would do just to like fire me up before I'd start scheduling visits. Because you've got to remember, like, you're there for them. And so the fear that we're going to get rejected, that's not as important when we're like, man, I am doing this so that someone can have a better life, so that their life can be saved. And I'm willing to take rejection because I know it's worth it. So let's get into some concrete tips. I got some tips first that start a little bit more generic, and then we're going to get into a specific script that I've used to schedule over 1,000 visits. We'll get there soon enough. So beginning with these tips, some of the things: smile and stand up. Some of these might seem super obvious. Look, when you smile, you sound different. And when you stand up, you're more confident. When you're standing, you feel more confident. And the other thing related to that, dress up. Whatever that means for you. I don't care if that means putting on your Nikes or if it's putting on a suit. Whatever like makes you feel confident, wear that. You want to set the stage to be in your best position to, in the words of, I think it's from, I can't remember which sales book it's from, but this always stuck with me. You want to sound like the type of person someone would want to meet with. Don't sound like you're just lounging on your couch in your jammies, unexcited about what you're calling this person about. Smile and stand up and sound like the type of person somebody would want to meet with. Next thing, use your cell phone. What I'm talking about here, in case it's not clear, this is for how to schedule visits with major gift prospects and benefactors. Why on earth you would not give someone who might give your organization $1 million your cell phone number, I will never understand. You do not need to have multiple numbers that someone could reach you on. It's confusing if you're calling somebody from an office line, but you tell them to call you back on your cell. Just have one number. And also, people can text you on your cell. Keep it simple. Use your cell phone. If somebody's going to give $1 million or $10 million or $100,000 to your organization, they should have your cell phone number. Second thing, related to your cell phone, use a headset or headphones. Like, it is good to be hands-free when you're making these types of calls. Couple reasons. One, most of us schedule things on our phone now. Most of us are just on our calendar on our phone scheduling stuff. So you don't want to be talking to somebody and have to say, hey, hold on, let me put you on speaker so I can check stuff. Be hands-free. You might need to take notes, you might need to type stuff. There's no reason to not be hands-free. And again, don't use speaker phone because you get all kinds of echo things. Use a headset or headphones and be hands-free. Again, sorry, I'm rushing through these because I want to make sure we get through everything in time. Next thing, again, this seems simple. Have your list prepared ahead of time. Man, when I was getting started, I did not do this. And it seems so obvious if you do it. But if you're like me, and I think a lot of people, I would get into the office and I would just be thinking to myself, all right, who am I going to call today? And you just think about it for 15 minutes and then you finally find the person, you call them, and then you spend another 10 minutes thinking about who's the next person I'm going to call. Don't do that. Have your list prepared ahead of time so that you can just go straight through it one by one, and you can go through 20 to 50 calls in a day to schedule visits if you've got it prepared and you've got their contact information right there. You shouldn't be searching for any of this stuff while you're doing it. Second thing here, schedule it on your calendar. If you are going to be successful in major gifts, you need to have a full pipeline. You need to be meeting with people. I mean, I don't understand why people who are full-time in major gifts can't have at least one visit every business day of the year on average. And so in order to do that, you need to schedule time to schedule visits. Make this, it can't just be like, well, I'll schedule visits if I have time. It's every Monday and Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. or whatever your thing is. That is when you schedule visits. And you put this on your calendar and you protect that time like it is any other meeting. If you had so many people, think I'm going to go schedule visits today and they don't have a specific time, then they decide to finally start doing it. Maybe they reach out to one person and then someone calls them, their mom calls them to talk about whatever, or you get that Facebook ding or whatever the interruption is. And then you're just on that and you're not scheduling visits. And then you remember an hour later, oh, I was supposed to do that. You would never let those interruptions happen if you were meeting with a benefactor who could give you a $100,000 gift. Treat the time that you're scheduling visits like you're meeting with your most important benefactor. Because if you do not schedule visits, you don't go on visits. And so you've got to keep this as a super high priority. Next thing I've got on my list here is track everything. Now, one caveat, I would say, if you're just like kicking butt, if you've got visits abounding and you're just meeting with people and they're making 7-figure gifts every day of the week, you've already got it figured out. You probably don't need to track it. If everything is working perfectly for you, not as important to track things. But if it's not working perfectly, like most of us, like I would say all of us, at least at some point in our careers, you need to know, how many attempts did I make to schedule visits? Out of those attempts, how many people did I actually get in touch with? Out of those people that I got in touch with, how many of them agreed to visit with me? Because then the numbers don't lie. So many times our emotions, like the way we feel about how a day went, is not indicative of what actually happened. So many times, I would feel like, man, I called so many people today and nobody's responding. And turns out, I look back at my notes, I called 5 people. Yeah, like 5 is not enough. Whatever happens last can deceive you. So for example, let's say 1 week, you're in the office and in the last day of the week, like Friday at 5 p.m., you get a visit scheduled with some phenomenal prospect. And you're going to go into that weekend thinking, man, like I did good work this week. That was phenomenal. And it is, it's great. You got that visit scheduled. But if you're tracking everything, you can see over time, what am I actually doing? That might be the only thing you accomplished that week. And when you're looking at the hard data, you can see, man, I only got one visit scheduled this entire week. I need to kick it up a notch. If you're not tracking that, you're not going to see it. And so whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, sometimes you might go through a weekend on Friday, somebody tells you no, somebody hangs up on you at the end of the week, and now you're feeling depressed. Like, man, I got my teeth kicked in this week. But you go back and look at the numbers and you go, actually, I scheduled 10 visits this week. This was a phenomenal week. I just had one sour thing at the end. So yeah, track everything. It'll help you know, well, one, let you know what's actually going on. And then two, it's going to allow you to see where is the breakdown. If I'm not getting enough visits, whatever your particular goal is, then you can look at those numbers and say, well, is it because I'm not contacting enough people? Is almost no one saying yes to visit with me, which would indicate you got to do something different in your script. Whatever it is, tracking that will allow you to see what the problem is. Next set of tips: be bold, be direct, be brief. You need to tell people right up front what's going on. This is, again, when I say be bold, I mean, believe your organization is the best in the world at what you're doing. You're not this timid, lowly fundraiser that is out begging for money, whoever will give it. You have got this incredible opportunity for someone of significant capacity to do something meaningful with their wealth. And so let's act like it. Sound like you're confident in what you're doing. 2, be direct. You've got to tell people, if this is somebody who you do not know, you need to immediately tell them why you were reaching out to them. Example, I love sales, I love fundraising, major gifts, and yeah, sorry if any, some people might have freaked out that I put sales and fundraising next to one another. Check out my podcast episodes on that topic. Lots of good conversation to have around that. But I think about these things all the time in everyday life. Yesterday, I was at home, and my wife had taken our daughter on a walk, and my mother-in-law was with them. And somebody knocks on our door. So I go to the front door and I open it up, and it's just this random guy who is sporting a local car dealership polo shirt, and he's got a mask on, and he just says, hey, is Mrs. my mother-in-law's name here? And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, who are you, dude? Like, that's what I asked him. I was like, who's asking? What do you like? And he was just being super weird. But, he's asking me, is my mother-in-law in this house some random dude that I don't know? And it's like, I can't honestly answer your question until you have identified who you are and what you want. Turns out he was just picking her up because her car was in the shop. But like, anytime you ask someone a question, until you have told them what it's about and identified yourself, they can't trust you. So we need to tell people right up front who we are, why we're calling, and then they can adequately respond. So what do I mean by that? Like, please, I have heard some people recommend this. Do not ever ask someone. If you call someone in your database that you don't know and they pick up the phone and the first thing you ask is now a good time to talk? Terrible question to ask, because they don't know who you are. They don't know why you're calling. And so they cannot answer you accurately, because no one wants to give you information until they know why you're calling. So anyway, that's a little bit of a side note, but tell people exactly why you're calling right away, and be brief. You are, by the very nature of what we are doing, when we call someone, we are interrupting their day. They were doing something else, the phone rang, they picked it up, and now they can't do that thing. So don't spend 3 hours giving them some greeting about what's going on. We got to get right to the point so that they can make a decision one way or another and not feel like their time is being wasted. Next slide. Okay, this is important. I threw this in last minute. This is key. I have it titled, Don't Ambush People. What do I mean by this? You'll see coming up, I'm going to share a script with you, and it is very direct. It's very formal, and there's a reason for that. Sometimes gift officers will wind up meeting with a benefactor, but the benefactor doesn't know why they were meeting. So like sometimes these worlds can become a little confusing. You know, lines can be blurred. You might have somebody that's a donor to the organization you work for who's also a family friend or a family member or somebody that goes to your church. Who knows? There's an infinite number of ways lines could be blurred. And there is one thing that kills trust more than anything is when someone thought you were meeting with them for like a friendly reason. Like maybe you might have reached out to schedule a visit with somebody, but they just thought you were going to have lunch because you're friends. And then all of a sudden you start talking to them about giving and they feel like they've been ambushed. They thought I was just going here to have lunch with my friend. Now he's talking to me about giving money to their organization. I didn't sign up for this. People hate that. Think about almost all of us have had this happen with someone who works at an MLM, multi-level marketing organization. I'm not commenting on the merits or lack of merits of those types of organizations, but something that people hate is when an old friend reaches out and you thought they were just rekindling the friendship, but then they want to sell you their whatever. Everyone hates that. Tell people right up front why you want to meet with them so they can make an accurate decision of whether or not they want to do it. Okay, I'm about to share with you the script that I use. Before I do that, I want to put this disclaimer. Only use this exact script for people in your database that you do not know well personally. So what do I mean by that? The meat and potatoes of the script is going to stay the same, but if we know somebody much better, like if we're closer with someone, we know them through some other means, we can be less formal because they trust us. So we don't have to go immediately to the thing. Or if someone doesn't know our organization at all, like they're not in the database, they've never given a gift, then we need to say some more, just a little bit telling them about the organization. Maybe there's a referral involved, but that'll be for another day. I don't think we'll have time to get into all that. So again, this script is for people who are in your database, especially currently giving, who know something about your organization, but you haven't visited with them before. Here it is. It's very short. Good morning, Jill. Kevin Fitzpatrick with Acme Nonprofit. The reason I'm calling you today specifically is to schedule a visit regarding Acme Nonprofit. How does next Tuesday at 10 a.m. look for you? Now, a few things to keep in mind. This, for some of you, probably looks very direct. You might even call it aggressive or abrasive, but it is not. It seems uncomfortable because we're not used to doing this. But if you're on the other end of the call, this is a phenomenal message to receive. So let me go through a few points of why this is effective. One, we do not begin with, hey, good morning, Jill, how are you? Again, until we have identified who we are and what we want, no one trusts us. So when we ask them, how are you? They don't want to tell us, and they don't care how we're doing either. So that's just a waste of time. Again, until you tell them why you're calling, what your intention is, they're all they're thinking to themselves is, what do they actually want? So they're not going to be open with you. They're going to be super guarded. So we go straight to it. Good morning, Jill. Kevin Fitzpatrick with Acme Nonprofit. We say their name, we identify ourselves, and we identify the organization we're with. Then we tell them as clear as day, the reason I'm calling you today specifically is to schedule a visit regarding Acme Nonprofit. Now here, again, this is important because we are telling them exactly why we want to meet. For anyone who's ever given money away, especially if they've given, decent amounts, they will know exactly what you are referring to when you say that. They are not going to think, oh, Kevin just wants to meet because we used to be friends or we go to the same church or whatever. They know exactly what this is about, so they're not going to be ambushed when they get there. And they have the ability to say yes or no. Because we're giving them all the information, we're giving them the power to agree or disagree with what we want to do. Next, how does next Tuesday at 10 a.m. look for you? We suggest a specific date and a specific time. Again, this seems initially counterintuitive. It's like, man, why would you set the terms? If we're here to serve them, why would you set the terms and the date? Look, if you do what most of us do, like what I used to do when I was first starting, we ask this super open-ended question like, hey, could we get together sometime in the next couple of weeks? That is a very draining question to respond to. If I've got now I have to look at my calendar for the next 2 weeks, every single hour that happens in the next 2 weeks. And I have to think about all these different variables. Well, I guess I could do it on this day, but I know my kids might have this practice. And so I don't know, that's probably not good. And then, we're doing that remodel on the kitchen. And so that's going to be a big project. And who knows when that's going to happen. So I'll just say, no time works. When we suggest a specific time on a specific date, they can pull out their phone, they can look at their calendar, and in 10 seconds, they can see, am I available at that time or am I not? And if they are, they say yes. And if they're not, then they'll just suggest another time. No one's ever said, nope, can't do 10 a.m. So I guess we'll never find a time to talk again. That is not the important part. Once we get them to the point where they've said, I'm going to go on this visit, the terms and the little details of when it's going to happen can all be figured out later. But we want to make this as easy as possible to get to a yes. We don't want to leave all these open-ended things up in the air. So let's get to the next slide. All right, one more thing. There was something on the air schedule. Okay, yeah, let's go to the next thing. So that's what you're going to say when you call somebody to schedule a visit. And again, this seems abrupt, but try it out. People really appreciate this. I've had so many people tell me, I start with this message and they'll say, man, like you're well trained. I've literally had benefactors tell that to me because they appreciate the directness. And the other thing is we're going to get into objections a little bit later, but when you put this out so clearly, if someone does not want to meet with you, they can tell you that they do not, and they can tell you why. There's no longer hiding behind obscurity. We've narrowed it down to exactly what they're asking, what we're asking for. And so if they say no, they can tell us exactly why, and then we can at least know what the objection is truthfully. So next I'm going to get into leaving a voicemail. Most of the time, people are not going to answer their phone. So you're going to leave a lot of voicemails. Basically, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to say, good morning, Jill, Kevin Fitzpatrick with Acme Nonprofit, and then say your cell phone number at the beginning. The reason I'm calling you today specifically is to schedule a visit regarding Acme Nonprofit. How does next Tuesday at 10 a.m. look for you? Please feel free to call me back or text me at, say your cell phone number again. And then I left the last part for whatever you want to say in your departure message that makes you feel happy is up to you. But that's it. We'll leave that voicemail. Now, quick note, there's a variety of ways you could do this. I like to, the first time I reach out to somebody like this, I like to call, I like to leave a voicemail, give them the opportunity to contact me back. I wait 2 weeks if they haven't responded, and then I call them again. And this time when I call them, if they don't answer, I leave a voicemail, but I do something different in the second voicemail. This time I tell them at the end, I'll just tell them, by the way, I'm going to send you the same information again in a text message in case it's easier for you to respond there. And then I get off the phone and then I literally send the same thing in a text message. And I say, by the way, I just left you a voicemail, but I'm sending you this text message in case it's easier for you to respond here. And I do that because I don't want people to just see that I'm contacting them a bunch of times. I want them to know that there's a reason behind this and I'm not just being annoying. Which leads us to texting. Some people don't think you should text your benefactors. I thought this when I was getting started. I was like, man, I don't know. They're like these special people that, I don't know, texting is too informal. My 92-year-old grandma texts, and I bet your grandma and grandpa texts as well. My point here, everyone texts. Texting is the preferred mode of communication for just about everyone in just getting simple messages communicated. And so use it. If you're not using text message, you're missing out on tons of opportunities. Most of the time when you make those calls, you leave a voicemail, you're going to get the response on the text you sent more than anything else. And I'm talking, so many people I've talked to, CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies, people who give away, $10 million gifts, 85-year-old people that I've worked with, everybody texts. This is the easiest way to get in front of people. And again, just use the same script as the phone, but you're sending it in text. Next, email. Sorry, I'm flying through this stuff again, but I want to make sure we've got time to get through all this. You basically use the same script in an email. Obviously, you change the wording just a little bit to instead of the reason I'm calling you, reason I'm contacting you, we put that information in there. But the main difficulty with email is that nobody opens it. It's very difficult to get people to open your emails. I saw somewhere that it was like, people know the numbers on emails. It's something like 10 to 20% of emails are opened, but it's over 99% of text messages are opened. So email much more difficult. Just a quick tip on how to get someone to open your email. Don't just have a generic subject line. Use a familiar name to them. So many visits I've scheduled with people through email happen because we knew someone in common. I had a referral, or whoever it was, I was able to put that person's name in the subject line. And you're not going to do this in like a spammy way. If you're going to use somebody's name who's a benefactor to your organization or in some other way a referral, get their permission to use their name. And then you simply just tell them in that email, like, hey, I saw on LinkedIn that you were connected with Bob, and Bob told me you'd be a great person to reach out to. And as soon as they see that person's name, think about this. I know one of my roommate from college, like if some random person sent me an email with Bradley's name in the subject line, there is a 100% chance I am going to open that email as long as I see it. So yeah, that's something I found to be extremely effective. Next, what's at stake? This is my favorite part here, everyone. I was sitting in on a board meeting. I was doing a board training up in another city up north, and there was a member of the board. I'll call her Jane, and she and her husband had just given a $10 million gift to another organization. And I was doing this board training on getting in front of benefactors and talking about the importance of it. And one of the things I said, I was just talking about, like, at some point you just got to have volume. Like, you can't expect to just call one person and all your problems are going to be solved. And so Jane responded and said, yeah, that's really true, that, people should contact more people, because my husband and I have a rule that we will meet with anyone who reaches out to schedule a visit with us. She said, it's not to say we're definitely going to give a gift, but if somebody reaches out to us, as long as it's not, an organization with a mission that's completely antithetical to what we believe in, we'll visit with them. And there are people out there like that we can talk all day about what's the best method to do this. but just doing it is so key. And so this is what's at stake. There are people out there who can give a $10 million gift to your organization, or $1 million gift, or $100,000 gift, if you would just reach out to them. But no one's done it yet. And so you have the ability, no matter who you are at the organization, whether like me, you were 21 years old when you got started. Nobody knows how old you are. Nobody knows what success you have or had not had at that point in your career. So you can reach out and get a visit scheduled with somebody who's got $10 million capacity. And that leads me to the next thing. I'm all about action. One of my clients yesterday was going through a bit of a slump. We were in our weekly coaching call, and we were talking about someone that she had been avoiding scheduling a visit with. And we were talking about it. And I was just like, just do it right now. Like, let's just take a 2-minute break, send the text message, get the visit scheduled. And so she did. And I challenged her to make 10 more attempts that day. And she left the day with 3 visits scheduled. And so today we are at the fun point. It is time to schedule a visit. Information is pointless if we don't put it to use. We are coming up on time here, but there is one thing that I absolutely want to do before this is over. The next 2 minutes, schedule a visit. You have hopefully learned something today. I have given you a script that I have used to schedule over 1,000 visits. I would, if Greg approves of this, I just want everybody to take 2 minutes, send a really short email, send a quick text to that person you have been avoiding, and give us a shot. And I guarantee you, some of you who do this just from one attempt are going to get a visit scheduled, because it's just taking that action that leads to success. So I'll take a break there and let Greg take it away.
Kevin, I could listen to you all day. All right. Thank you. And we're going to get into questions and answers. But before we do, I want to make sure that everybody gets your cell number. Could you please give everybody your cell number so they can text you questions, because we have so many questions that we might not get to all of these.
Okay. How about I give everyone to avoid a mad rush, my email address? I'll give you that. It's just kevin@onevisitaway.com. You should be able to find that pretty easily. But yeah, any questions you have, let me know, and hope this was helpful.
All right, great. Well, we're going to go through the questions, and I hope you'll all entertain me for just a second, or let me entertain you. I'm going to give you the quick 1-2 of who is MarketSmart in case you're not familiar with us. It's been 13 years we've been around, but still a lot of people don't know who we are. People come to us when they realize that fundraising climate change is real. So what does that mean? I mean, I invented the phrase fundraising climate change. What it is, and it's in the report that Tricia will probably put the link here for you so that you can see all the data behind this, but it's basically more dollars coming from fewer donors, low donor retention rates, high costs of donor acquisition. It's harder and harder to build true deep relationships with major donor prospects because it's hard to get to them. And there's a lot of operational inefficiencies at most organizations that can be cured with technology. So the way that this really shows itself is in the fact that a lot of fundraisers are encountering false positives, resulting in wild goose chases that cost the organization a lot of money. What I mean is they end up actually, well, I'll get to this in a second, but the people who come to us are ready for a new way to leverage technology so they can raise a lot more major and legacy gift dollars at lower cost. So this isn't about big data. We're not another wealth screening company. In fact, what we've seen from research is that the percent of donors in a caseload that are truly qualified when they get put in your caseload, fundraisers tell us they feel it's only about 1/3 of those supporters are truly qualified for outreach. So this again results in false positives, and that costs you and your organization time and money. And it's very frustrating to be a fundraiser who's told, yeah, go get them, but they're really just not qualified. It just takes too much time. So ours is a donor-driven system that helps you build warm-up relationships, I should say, with wealthy and passionate supporters until such time as they're ready. And then they signal to you that they're ready for outreach, or they even schedule the appointment right there on your calendar for you. Okay, so this, what happens is they end up telling us through our system why they care and how their life story intersects with your cause, how they want to give, whether it's cash or assets. And of course, we want assets generally, and what to say that'll help you land the meeting. Okay. This is really about qualification and cultivation, resulting in what we call tech-enabled donor discovery. So you can scale your qualification and prioritization in your system, if you will. It's not about prospect identification, and we don't do solicitation at all. You do that. So hundreds of organizations have used this on 3 continents and growing. And we actually promise and guarantee a 10-to-1 return on investment, which is usually greater than any ROI you get from any other type of fundraising. But over the lifetime, we want you to get 100-to-1. Here's one quick testimonial from someone who got 60-to-1 in just a few weeks. And this is all with a no-risk guarantee, 10-to-1 ROI guaranteed, or your money back. So if you're interested at all, we also, besides just chatting with you to see if there's a fit, there's never any pressure, because what we do is not right for everybody, but we'll also do what consultants often charge $10,000 for, maybe 5, is we'll give you a analysis 100% for free, where we look at your transactional data, and then we'll marry it with our data of similar customers to come up with a forecast of what kind of results you're likely to get. And we usually downplay it and make it very conservative. And in the end, we'll present you with the opportunity that you could get. Usually it's in the tens of millions of dollars. And then it's up to you all if you really want to go for it with us. We'll deliver all these charts, and you'll get tons of data for free that your team will love, in addition to the forecast. So all of this is designed to help you be the fundraiser that you really always wanted to be. And you can contact us at imarketsmart.com. So having said all that, now let's get to the Q&A, because there are a lot of questions, and I know you only have 11 minutes approximately. So I'm going to start at the top though. Let's see here. Firstly, somebody asked, bear with me just a second, because I want to get to the first person who was kind enough to submit a question here. Well, I won't find the first one that easily. So I'm going to say, on the script of scheduling visits, what are your thoughts about being even more specific about what you want to talk to them about with Acme Nonprofit?
Yeah. Great question. So I keep it as generic as possible at the beginning for one primary reason. If you can get somebody to agree to visit with you from the generic, I'd like to schedule a visit with you, that leaves the option to talk about anything. If someone may, give you some pushback, like, oh, well, what do you want to meet about? And then you might have to tell them, eventually like worst case scenario, what I don't want to do is have to tell somebody, hey, like, I promise you I'm not going to ask you for a gift on the visit, but I will do that if it's necessary to get the visit. So I keep it generic at the beginning. If people ask more questions, we can get more specific, but I'll leave that up to them.
Okay, so this is a flash news flash. Like Jenny, I won't say your last name, although you posted this in the chat, literally texted a donor she had not been able to contact right now and got a response. So
Heck yeah.
just wanted to point that out. Thank you, Kevin, for giving Jenny that advice. And she just got that right now. So kudos.
Jenny, you owe me $1.
And Christina is now on there. Fingers crossed, she's texting people too. So,
That's
all right.
awesome.
Aaron asks, could we ask, how are you, after we identify ourselves and the reason for the call?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And I go back to basically no. We want to, so another principle here is one of the things we don't want to do is have the visit over the phone. It's so easy to get sucked into, well, why don't we just talk now? Now that we're chatting about our summer vacation, let's just do it now. We want to schedule the visit and get off the phone as fast as possible, because you can get sucked into that, and then they just say, well, just tell me what you need right now. And then we don't have the ability to actually talk with them and focus on the more important thing, which is understanding them and asking them questions rather than what they're asking us to do, which is just tell them the pitch, essentially. So yeah, keep it brief, schedule the visit, get off the phone.
I want to add that we have found that asking how are you is much better used and implemented in this after you already know somebody.
Right.
More appropriate. However, there are some, and I saw one message in here that in the South, although you're from the South, for instance, it's more polite to ask how are you, and some people will maybe feel like you weren't being nice.
Yeah. I think, okay, first thing is, whatever you do, get to the point real quick. Some of this seems so abrupt. I didn't want to do it when I first started, but the more I just got to the point, the better my success was. Second point, again, I put this disclaimer in there because if you do have some type of relationship with the person, then yeah, you're gonna ask them how they're doing, a few little pleasantries. But again, we're gonna get to the point real quick.
I like that. Get to the point so that you get the meeting and you meet them rather than doing the meeting on the call.
Exactly.
That's what you're really saying. Let's not split hairs too much about it. Okay, next question. Would you use the language, I guess that's in your script, in an email also, and then say, if I don't hear from you, I'll follow up?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the exact same script. You can, because it's email, it's a little longer form. Like you can add a little more like, hey, hope you're doing well, enjoying the summer, whatever. But again, I don't, you can add something like that at the end if you want to. I don't think it matters too much one way or the other. Again, the key is going to be, and I didn't get to this because we ran out of time. The key, especially for email, is going to be referrals. Like Greg's got this in his top 10 meetings to land, top 10 tips to land meetings with donors. Referrals are that is the cheat code to getting in front of anybody. Because if you got a peers, you'll see this when you download the slides, but if you have a peers approval saying this is someone you should meet with at an organization that I trust and give a lot of money to, they're going to say yes to meeting with you. And the exact method is not as important.
Excellent. Okay. Do you use the same script when scheduling in-person visits as well as Zoom or phone call visits?
Yeah, good question. Pandemic topical. Yeah, so I use the same script. If it's in an email, you can put something, okay, this is one, you got to consider, what are you comfortable with? Because I mean, if you're not comfortable meeting with anyone in person, then don't offer that. But if you are comfortable meeting with people in person, then I just tell people, if it's in an email, something like, happy to meet via Zoom or in person, whatever. Just put some disclaimer in there letting them know, like, I want to do whatever you're comfortable with, but I'd always prefer to see them in person if possible.
Got it. All right, so this one is thankfully from one of our dear longtime customers and favorite customers, Kathy. So thank you, Kathy. Good to see you here. Do you differentiate between a stewardship/impact reporting visit and a solicitation? In other words, wouldn't you want to say, schedule a visit to share with you the impact of your work versus schedule a visit to talk to you about a program you might be interested in supporting?
Yeah, great question. And similar to the other one asked previously, but if you know the person, okay, a couple things I would say. I have never, well, generally speaking, again, I'm going to keep it generic. And then if they need a reason, then I'll give one. But I especially if you're in close enough relationship with someone that they've given a significant gift and now you're reporting back to them on it, and they're going to say yes to visit with you anyway, the majority of the time. So I wouldn't feel the need to tell them a specific unless you feel like you can't get it without that. Because again, like I don't know what's going to happen on the visit. Like if you're in deep enough relationship with somebody, you'll usually know, like, is this going to be a visit I'm going to ask them for a gift on? But who knows, if you might hear during that visit, I just sold my business for $400 million and I want to give all the money away. Like, I don't want to limit what we can do unless we feel like we have to, but not a huge deal one way or the other, I would say. Excellent.
Here's another one, and we only have a couple more minutes left. And by the way, for those of you, when the webinar finishes, if you'd please take the survey to help us understand your needs better, you're going to get a survey in just a minute. So, okay, I think we have time for one or two more questions. Where do you usually meet with potential donors?
Great question. So I leave it up to them. I never want to tell someone they've got to meet me in some place. However, if I have the option, okay, a couple things. If you're going to ask somebody, I like to meet with people at their office or in their home, especially if I'm going to be asking them for a gift. Restaurants, coffee shops are great. I've spent tons of time at both of them, but it can be very awkward when you're asking for the significant gift as the waiter arrives with the bill, and nobody wants that. Plus, you can just have a more private conversation in somebody's office or in their home. So I prefer that.
Got it. All right. So this is going to be the last question here, even though there's a ton of others. Sorry, everybody, that we couldn't get to all of them. Carter asks, I feel like donors might not appreciate me texting them if they haven't said that this is a preferred way to contact them. Our MG team currently does not use our cell phones for our work other than with a few close donors or board members. Is it okay to just start texting donors out of the blue?
Man, great question. And coming at this from, I'm from like the tiny nonprofit, Kevin, go figure it out world. If you're at a much larger organization, they might have rules like that. I'm never going to tell you to like break the rules of your organization, but I've never had someone respond, how dare you text me, or something like that. People get texts from their Grubhub driver, and they're not going to be upset because, I mean, sometimes people get upset once in a blue moon, but I have never lived my career trying to avoid at all costs not upsetting someone. I'd rather just do what I think is best to be in touch with them, and text is a great method.
I'm going to back up your assertion here based on science supported by Dr. Russell James. who is our pal and teammate, essentially. And the truth is that when people think of philanthropy, and especially the organizations they care about, the part of the brain that lights up is the same part of the brain that lights up when they think about their family and family members and such. So you have to recognize that although you're conducting business, they feel like they're engaging with family.
Yes. So good. So I have to go. I have to get on a call with the client, but I want to leave you all with one last thing. We didn't get to objections. I'm going to do a podcast episode or something about this, but real quick, if somebody doesn't want to meet with you, say something. That's the most important. Try something. I think 99 times out of 100, somebody says, I don't want to meet with you. And we just fold over like a wet blanket, and that takes care of the job. If you come back with something, that just lets them know immediately there is something different about this person. They are committed to what they're doing, and it changes how they view you and your organization. So last thing I'll say real quick, this is at the end of my slide, but like I've always just gone with stop making excuses and start making phone calls, because you're just one visit away from growing your mission and your impact. I promise you, you can do this, and there's nothing stopping you. So get those visits scheduled. Thanks so much for having me, Greg. This was a blast.
We will do it again. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please take the survey. Feel free to send email to Kevin or me if you want. I can answer these questions. I've made quite a number of calls, and thousands of calls, tens of thousands. Yeah. So everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank y'all so much. Bye.